Well, hey, this is Pastor Scott, and I hope you are doing well. We missed recording on Sunday, and so I'm just double checking here that we are in fact recording, and we are. And so I'm going to preach this into my computer once again, and so here we go. God has been doing some really cool stuff here at the Rock, and it's definitely been a good day. And I'm just really excited about the people that the Lord has been bringing to us and all the cool things that have been happening. And for the last month, we have been doing a series called I Quit. I Quit. I quit complaining. I quit living in fear is today. So I quit is this month. And so I just want to thank all of you guys who have been giving us your prayer requests and been doing things that allowing me to come up alongside of you and pray for you, and I'm just really, really grateful. Would you take a minute? We pray this every week at the Rock, and coming up, I think we're going to be doing a little teaching on why we pray this every week, because it's actually maybe a little deeper than what you expected. But anyway, would you pray this with me? Would you say, Jesus, help me to be what you want me to be, do what you want me to do, because people without you go to hell. In Jesus, God, we love you so much, and thank you for being so good to us. So this week, I quit living in fear. I hope you're not living in fear. Studies show that babies are born with two basic fears. The fear of being dropped and the fear of loud noises. Adults, we learn to fear all kinds of stuff. Spiders, thunder, closets, monsters. And I remember when I was a kid, be sleeping, you go to bed, and your blanket is kind of like, a kryptonite for monsters. Okay? They can't touch the blanket. And so if you get everything under your blanket, but if you leave your leg out, your leg is in trouble. And so you don't want to do that. You want to get all the different pieces plugged in and underneath your blanket. But that was always a problem because, your head is still exposed. But I figured this out when I was a kid. You would get under and you would put your head under the blankets. But then that would get kind of stuffy. And you didn't really like being all stuffy. But I found if you wrap the blanket around your head and you leave just a little air hole, and then you could breathe out of that air hole, and the monsters couldn't touch you. Remember another time when I was a kid, there was something on the floor, and it was some kind of, something. But in the dark, I'm staring at this thing, right? And I'm thinking, what is that thing over there? What is it? And I'm pretty sure, that I saw it begin to move. Didn't move fast, but it did definitely start to move. And so there's dangerous things in the bedroom of Scott when he was a kid. Now, there are some common fears in this life that people deal with. And some of those fears are a fear of loss, a fear of failure, fear of rejection, and a fear of the unknown. So fear of loss, what you have that you could lose. And so that occupies your mind. Fear of failure. Maybe you're scared of starting a ministry. Maybe you're scared of starting a new job or going after a new promotion because you're scared you might fail. Maybe you're afraid of going to college someplace because you're afraid that you might fail. Or fear rejection. Guy asks a girl out and, hey, why would I go out with you? You're kind of a loser. And that's a very scary thing. I was one of my fears is rejection. And, I'm actually not that extroverted of a guy. And I had my greatest fear come true about 6 months ago. I was at a gathering. It was a business type thing. And I was talking to somebody who was an associate of mine. And we're standing. And somebody else comes to talk to this guy. And literally, it was the two of us talking. And then everybody's backs ended up being to me. And I was like, okay, I am on the outside looking in. I'm a loser. I'm just going to walk away. And so that's so sometimes our greatest fears are realized, but they're actually just, petty insecurities inside of ourselves. But I hated it nonetheless. And I think he was a jerk and I wanted to punch him in the back of the head. Thank you very much. Anyway, we fear rejection. We fear rejection and we become people pleasers as a result. A lot of people fear the unknown. It might be better, it might not, but it's unknown, so we fear it. Now, let's look at what the Bible says about living in fear. we find in 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 10, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. So God is not the giver of fear. And so why doesn't God give fear? Why doesn't God like fear in you? Well, I want to tell you that it's because fear is placing faith in the what ifs. Okay? Fear is placing faith in the what ifs. What if this happened? What if that guy turns his back to me? What if? And Moses did this. Now, if you've ever asked what if, I just want to encourage you that you are actually in pretty good company. Moses, big stud that he was, dealt with this in Exodus 4:1. Moses answered, what if they don't believe me or listen to what I say? Or they say, the Lord did not appear to you. God, what if he begins to play the what if game? God, what if I lose my job? You know, what if I go for that promotion and they laugh in my face and they say, you can't do this? And I'll tell you this, Inger Lisa did exactly that, and then God did something cool, and she got that job that she wasn't supposed to get, so that was pretty fun. But what if they don't believe me? What if my health goes bad? What if, I can't plan this trip because what if I get sick? I can't do this. What if this happens? What if that happens? Now, bad things can happen, but worrying about it doesn't do you any good. Okay? Worrying about it doesn't do you any good. So why do your what ifs matter? What is it about your what ifs why should they matter to you? Why should you identify what you are fearful about? And I want to take a break here for a minute. I don't have a slide for this. I probably should have. But I want to tell you, if you're wondering, well, I don't fear anything. I'm tough. I don't fear nothing. I want to give you a little measuring stick so you can tell how much you are fearing something, okay? And Jesus helps us out. He says, do not worry. Who of you added a minute of your life to worrying? And I want to suggest to you that it's possible that the thing that you are fearing, whether you want to admit that you're fearing that thing or not, the thing that you are fearing is revealing itself to you by your worry. What's occupying your head that you can't do anything about today? What is in your head that is outside of your control today? Do not worry. After you've done what you can to handle the problem, does it stay in your head? That is worry. And that could be exposing a fear in your life. So why does it matter? Why is it important to take a step back? And maybe you want to pause what you're listening to right now and even do that. And I had them do this in church on Sunday. Take a step back and say, okay, what's filling my head? What am I worrying about? And if you can answer that question, what are you worrying about? That's going to tell you what you're fearing. Why identify it? Well, I want to suggest two thoughts of why you need to know what it is. What you fear shows what you value most. Now, you fear some very worthwhile things. I fear that I don't want my kid to be hurt. I want my job to stay intact because my family is depending on me. We fear things it shows what's important in your life. If you didn't care about it, you wouldn't care about it, It shows what's important. It's important to me that people like me, I wish I could be so tough that it didn't matter that if anybody liked me, but the reality is I like it when people like me. And so when I'm in a group of people and they turn their backs on me and don't include me in the conversation, I fear that, so that's a value. Now I may say, I don't care what anybody thinks about me, but yet my worry and my fear and my actions demonstrate something different. So what you fear shows what you value most. But here's the part with a little bit of teeth, okay? What you fear reveals where you trust God the least, okay? Where you fear exposes where you trust God the least. Are you worried about your finances? Then you're not trusting God with your finances. Are you worried about your kid? Then you're not trusting God with your kid. What you fear reveals where you trust God the least. Now, He doesn't want you to fear. He wants you to come up, and we're going to skip back here a minute, and because I want you to look at this verse again, our main text. this verse says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but He has given you something." That's good news. That's good news. He has given you something. Power and of love and a sound mind. That's what your God has given you. And so how do you battle fear? How does God want you to handle your kids, your job, your all those things? How does God want you to handle it? Well, He wants to give you the power, love, and a sound mind to handle these things. And so here's my question for you today. And I told you a little bit of teeth here. I am not trusting God with blank. What are you not trusting God with? When you close your eyes at night, what worries come in your head? What is it that grips your heart in that moment with dread? Now, I know I've gone through things in my life when something happened or something was coming, and my heart was gripped with a dread. I remember the night that the years ago I was. Now you don't know the whole story, but I was fired from my best job I ever had. It's a long story, but no one ever told me why I was fired. They just said we're making changes and you have 30 days, and it was a tough situation. Never once did they criticize my work. Never once did they say do more of this or less of that. And so to this day I have no idea why. I have ideas of what might be why, but nobody told me anything. So anyway, that was said, I remember I always gave the announcements on Sunday nights, and there was quite a bit of turmoil on the staff I was on, and there was another pastor on staff, and I knew that the boss liked the way I did announcements better than him. Long story short, I didn't do announcements that night, and another guy on staff had been abruptly fired, just 2 weeks before, and fear gripped my heart. I knew what was going to happen. So I go home, and I remember I was laying on the floor in the dark, and just so scared. And my wife came in, and she finds me laying on the floor in the dark. And she says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm getting fired on Tuesday." Oh, I forgot to tell you this. The boss had said, "I want to have an appointment with you on Tuesday," after he had been gone for a month. And so his first thing that he wanted to do after being gone for a month was to talk to me. And I knew that didn't bode well. And he fired me. But that feeling of fear, of that dread. Now, the rest of the story is just so you know that God's got your back. And I could have trusted God with it. Now, I was about to walk through what would be the hardest thing in my life that I had to walk through yet in this life, okay? But the good news is that God walked with me, and if, this you probably have things like this in your life too. If you said to me, "Scott, in order to be where you are, you had to go through that. Would you like to change that?" I'd say no. I would go through that experience 100 times if it meant getting to be who I am today. God had things He needed to do in me, and He had to get me someplace He wanted me to be. The reality is I never would have left that job on my own. The only way God was ever going to get me out of there was to kick my butt. But so there was no reason to fear because God was for me. Even though it was hard, even though I didn't want it to happen, the reality is God was for me. I didn't have to fear, but Inger Lisa found me in a figurative, I don't know if I was actually in a fetal position in the basement or not, but I was definitely pretty upset. And so, how do you face the what ifs of fear? Okay, so now we painted this picture, and just so you know, the church didn't get to hear about me being in the fetal position in the basement. So you're special because you're getting the deeper message even more so than what the church got on Sunday. But facing the what ifs of fear, okay, you have to acknowledge the fear and then choose to trust God with it. Okay, now David did this. David, in Psalms 56, verse 2 through 4, it says, "I am constantly hounded by those who slander me. But when I am afraid, I will put my trust in you. I praise God for what He has promised. I trust in God, so why should I be afraid? What can mere mortals do to me?" Now this is being written by King David. He's on the run from Saul. What can mere mortals do to David? Well, Mere mortals could kill David. What can mere mortals do to me? Well, yeah, they'll kill you. That's what mere mortals will do to you. And Jesus said at one point, he said, who are you going to fear? The person that can destroy your body or the person that can destroy your soul forever in hell? Well, he's basically saying, hey, guys, this life is just a minute, And so David's like, hey, I got nothing to fear. I belong to God, and even if I die, even if they succeed in killing me, hey, God, I just get to be with you. David actually in the Old Testament gives us this concept of eternity and heaven. We see through some of David's writings that he did in fact believe in that. So, why do you say, why is he afraid? He was afraid because he was running from people. So put your trust in God. How do you get out of being afraid? There's only one way to do it. Put your trust in God. See, David went from the temporary to the eternal. So be honest. Go to God and have it out with him. Tell him why you're afraid. Tell him how you've been treated unfairly. Treat him, just expose your heart to him. He knows anyway. You might as well just lay it out there. You don't have to say these and those. I'll tell you a secret. I've even not lately, okay, because I kind of trembled even to think of it. But in my life, I've even cussed while talking to God when I was really under the gun. Now, I'm not suggesting you do that, and like I said, I haven't done that for a long time, but sometimes you're just so frustrated, and you might as well just be who you are with him, because he sees your heart anyway. And I'll tell you what, you get that stuff out. Some of those conversations I have, I'll be honest with you, in the course of our prayer time, my response from the Lord was much like Job's of, who are you to talk to me that way? And I will say that, but you might as well get it out so that he can appropriately spank you if that's what you got coming. Anyway, so you got to bring it to God. Seek the one who takes away your fears. Seek him until he takes away your fears. Now, how do you do this? Well, you attend church, you pray, you join our online soap group on Facebook. Fantastic thing, by the way. You worship him until he takes away your fears. Now, you say, how does that work? I just seek God, and does he sprinkle magic fairy dust on me, and all of a sudden I'm not afraid anymore? I'll tell you, that's not how it works. You battle fear by pouring in God. You battle fear by pouring in his power, by pouring in his love, by pouring in God. And you only can do that by spending time with God. You spend time with God by going to church. You spend time with God by praying. You spend time with God by worshiping. You spend time by engaging God. Now, I'll tell you that another way to worship is doing stuff for God, but doing stuff for God doesn't really help you know him how I'm talking right now. You have to get alone with him. You got to get in that place where it's just you and Jesus so that he can share with you what he thinks about you. Okay? So that he can get it inside of you, because when you're okay with God, it doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. When you have an eternal perspective like David did, you can look at the world and you can say, hey guys, you want to kill me? I'm serving my Jesus. I'm serving my God. You can kill me all you want. You can come against me. You only get to hurt me if he gives you the nod. And if he gives you the nod, there's a purpose in it. And so I got nothing to fear. But you only get to that place where your heart and your spirit can take on that kind of confidence. You only get to that place when you spend time with him. I can't spend time with God for you. You come in church on Sunday, it doesn't matter how much Greek and Hebrew I have. It doesn't matter how well studied I am. All I can do is I'm actually just trying to inspire you to spend time with God. Okay? Spending time with Scott is not spending time with God. And if you're thinking that you can have a relationship with God just by going to church, you are going to be a very, very frustrated Christian. It's true. You're going to be a very frustrated Christian if you try to get all your spiritual food from church. It just doesn't work. And so, spend time with God until he takes away your fears. You got to push through it. It doesn't happen right away. It takes time. Psalm 34 verse 4, David says, I sought the Lord, and he answered me, and he delivered me from all my fears. There's something else I like here, okay? God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind, or self-discipline in some translations. This not fearing, this courage, this power, love, and sound mind, it doesn't come from you. It comes from God. I sought the Lord. What is your role in this verse? What's your job? My job is to seek God. Okay? You seek God by praying, reading, worshiping, attending church. Okay? You seek God. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. I sought the Lord. Don't be irritated with God that he hasn't come through for you, that he hasn't given you his peace, that he hasn't quieted your fears when you have done nothing to seek him. That's like getting mad for getting thirsty and refusing to take a drink. That's like getting mad about being hungry and refusing to go to the store to get groceries. The way this thing works is not sprinkling magic dust. I can pray for you for peace, and I do all the time. I pray for people that God would give them peace. But can I tell you a secret? You can't get it just by me praying for you. You can find peace in that moment. You can hopefully feel the love coming from me in that prayer time as I engage God on your behalf. Hopefully you know your pastor loves you. You know your pastor's for you. And I can pray for a peace that passes all understanding. But the peace that we're talking about here that conquers fear can't come from a person. It has got to come from God. And it comes from God in verse 4, I sought the Lord, and he answered me. You got to seek him. You got to push after him. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all of my fears. And so I just want to encourage you today to quit living in fear. And how do you do it? There's only one way. You got to seek God. You have to God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and self-discipline, or sound mind in the new NIV. It's tough because I have the verse here in front of me with self-discipline, the New Living Translation, but I learned this verse in the NIV, and that makes it very difficult. But God is the one who breaks your fear. But you have a role to play. This isn't magic fairy dust. This is seeking God, praying, reading his word, digging into his word, coming to church, worshiping him, both by yourself and in church. When we worship at the Rock, I want to tell you this, it isn't a show. Our goal is nothing short of you have an experience where the world disappears and you get to lock horns with Jesus. That's what we're going for when we worship at the Rock. I'm not saying we always do a good job, but that is the purpose of that moment. It isn't about being seen. It isn't about anything like that. It's about you engaging God. And so seek the Lord. That's the key to not living in fear. Because when you seek him, you know what he's going to give you? When you're alone with him, maybe you're laying on the floor and you're complaining to him, but he gives you love. He lets you know that, Scott, I love you. I'm for you. These next 2 years you're laying on the floor right now in the dark in the basement. These next 2 years are going to be awful. But I love you and I'm for you. I'm going to give you the power, Scott, to get through this. There's going to be days when you don't think that you can make it, but I'm going to help you make it. I'm going to give you the strength. I'm going to give you the power. And you know what, Scott? I'm going to give you the self-discipline. I'm going to give you the sound mind to get through this. And can I tell you something? I can't tell you that I was always perfect, that I didn't have bad motives. But when I had a crying mom in front of me, and she was upset that I wasn't going to be at the church anymore. See, the other part of the story is that they had lied to the congregation. Told the truth with a surgeon's precision, but communicated a lie. I did not resign. I refused to write a letter of examination. All the other pastors, they all took turns asking me to write a letter of resignation because it would have made things so much easier for them. I felt like that would violate my integrity because I wasn't resigning. I was being fired. And so, but when the senior pastor told the congregation that I would no longer be there, he chose words in such a way that everybody there thought I was resigning. Now, I did not want to talk ill about the church because I knew that wouldn't be pleasing to God. And so I refused to say anything negative about anybody there. And that wasn't easy when I had a crying mom in front of me mad at me that I was leaving and I had her son really liked me and he had some issues and she's crying in the hallway. I tell you what, it would have been really easy to say, yeah, those sons of guns are mistreating me. But I sought the Lord and he gave me the self-discipline. And I had a pat answer. I said, well, we know that the church is making some changes, and Inger, Lisa, and I are taking this opportunity to pursue some things that we've been daydreaming about, which was I didn't want to lie, and we were pursuing things. None of those things, incidentally, would work. It would be the biggest 2 years of failure of my existence. But there were some things that I had been daydreaming about, and we would try them. It's just that they would all fail miserably. But what my point is, seek the Lord. He's going to give you the power, He's going to give you the love, and He's going to give you the self-discipline so that even when you don't feel classy on the inside, even when you're full of anger and hurt, you can still look at that crying parent and you can still conduct yourself in a Christ-like way. Huh? Right? Seek the Lord, and He'll drive that fear out of you. Hey, may Lord richly bless you. I hope to see you in church on Sunday, West Acre Cinema, 10 a.m. every week. The only church in town where not only do you get Starbucks coffee, but you also can have popcorn in church. Ends justify the means, baby. Just come and hear about Jesus, even if it's the donuts that get you there. Lord bless you. Thank you so much.